Is it hot out here? Or is it just me? Don't worry, the worst of the summer heat is officially behind us and things are going to start cooling off soon. August is the time of year when our summer garden and our fall garden meet, and this makes it an awesome time of year to start crops from seed. And on today's video, I am going to share with you 10 awesome crops that you can start in August right now. You simply have to plant these. And be sure to stay until the end of the video where I will give you a big list of every single variety that I'm starting from seed in August.
If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and check out my Amazon store and Spreadshop links in the video description for everything I use in my garden and awesome custom apparel and gear.
Now, as a point of reference, I live on the southeastern coast of North Carolina, Zone 8B, but the truth is that hardiness zones don't matter when it comes to growing annual vegetables. All that matters for annual vegetable gardens are your frost dates, your average temperature, and the days to maturity on whatever crops you are starting from seed. So no matter what zone you live in, the information in this video should be applicable to you. Also, for most of the varieties of the seed that I am featuring in this video, I will also place direct links to those seeds down in the video description for your convenience if you're interested in using some of those same varieties. Crops 1 and 2 that you can start from seed in August right now are cucumbers and zucchini. Whoa, 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 you may be thinking, how can I start cucumbers and zucchini in August? I get frost in October. That is the beauty of cucumber and zucchini plants. They germinate in only about 3 to 4 days, and they are ready for harvest in as little as 40 to 55 days after that, depending on the different varieties that you select. If you start these plants from seed first thing in August, you will be harvesting crops by middle of September. So no matter where you live, there is ample time left for you to start another round of cucumbers and zucchini. And if you're like me and you don't see frost until November, well, I still have 2 more crops of cucumber and zucchini that I plan on planting before I see my first frost. Cucumbers and zucchini should be succession planted throughout the year. I mean, I planted my first wave way back in April in this bed, and they are long gone from my garden. It's my second wave of these plants that are actually producing right now. Look at all of those big fat zucchini in there. And I have my third wave of cucumbers and zucchini ready for planting as early as next week. Here in North Carolina, where our growing season is fairly modest at only about 240 days, I sow 5 waves of cucumbers and zucchini throughout the year. That's right, I plant new seeds about every 6 weeks. And the best part is these crops are so much easier to grow at the end of the year because insect pressure is going away. I'm seeing less and less squash bugs, less and less vine borers. I haven't seen a cucumber beetle in weeks. These pests are going to be largely gone from your garden, so they're really easy to grow. And if there's still a few straggler pests here and there when you put your new transplants out, no big deal. Just cover them in insect netting for the time being until they go away. This is shade cloth, but it's the same principle. I'll place some links down in the video description to both insect netting and shade cloth if you need some. They're really inexpensive. Crop number 3 that you can start from seed in August right now are small fruited melons. Now look, unless you have a growing season that goes deep into December, it's too late for the vast majority of us to start seeds for things like watermelons because they need too much heat and they take too long to ripen. But when it comes to very small fruited melons, then you can actually start these because there are melons that are as little as 60 to 65 days to maturity. Some examples are these honey rock cantaloupes or one of my favorite small melons, the Kajari melon. Here's an example of one of the honey rock cantaloupes growing right here. These are personal size melons. They fruit and ripen very quickly. They fit in the palm of your hand. So these are excellent to plant for a fall harvest. These melons are also great options for climates with shorter summers that may struggle to grow large watermelons, cantaloupes, honeydews, and things like that. So, if you thought it was too late to start melons from seed in your garden, think again. These small melons make the impossible possible. Crop number 4 that you can plant in August are potatoes. Potatoes aren't just for late winter, early spring planting. They make a fantastic fall crop too. In fact, I just harvested my spring planting of potatoes 2 weeks ago, and when I started pulling my potatoes, I noticed that some of them were either exposed to some sun and turned a little green and they started to sprout some eyes, or maybe some just matured ahead of others and I saw a little bit of sprouting on those potatoes. Well, those potatoes that started sprouting on you, they are perfect to replant as seed potatoes to grow another harvest for fall. So you can take those inferior potatoes and stick them in the ground or in grow bags, as I like to plant them, right now for a fall harvest. But if you didn't just harvest your potatoes and have a nice selection of potatoes to replant, just go to the grocery store and get yourself some organic potatoes and let them sit on your counter for a week or two, and they will begin to sprout on their own. Then just plant them. And if you don't think that you have enough time to grow potatoes and get a good harvest out of them, don't worry, because you have nothing to lose. Because the potatoes are planted underground, they are not going to be harmed if you get a fall frost. So just let them grow as long as possible until they are naturally killed by the frost. Even if you get them in ground a little bit late, you're still going to get some amount of harvest. They may be a little bit smaller if you're going to see your first frost by early October, but don't worry, you'll still get something out of them. And if you don't see frost until mid to late October or November, you can get a serious potato harvest if you plant them now in August. Crop number 5 that you can plant right now in August is one of the easiest crops you will ever grow. In fact, they are a lazy gardener's dream, and that is string beans. Here's why. See that right there? This variety right here is only 52 days until maturity, and most string beans are really fast to fruit. So if you plant your string beans now in early August, you will be harvesting them in September. What makes string beans so easy to grow is the fact that they're a legume, and legumes are just inherently easy to grow. They require minimal fertilizing. You almost never want to grow them from transplant. They're best direct sown into the ground. So just take your finger and poke a hole about 1 to 1.5 inches deep every 18 to 24 inches and drop in a string bean seed. And they should germinate within about 5 to 7 days, and you'll be picking off of them in less than 2 months. They are also going to have very few pests that will bother them at that time in the year. So again, a very easy crop to grow, and like most legumes, I have found that when the weather is cooler, they taste better. They are more tender and they are sweeter. So I really love to have myself a fall planting of string beans in my garden, because the string beans you get in September and October, they are just delicious. Crops 6, 7, and 8 that you should start from seed right now in August are your longer standing brassicas, and I'm talking about specifically broccoli, cabbage, and kale. These plants do best from transplant, and they tend to take a longer time to stand and mature. Some of your brassicas are very, very fast growing, and you can wait to plant them until things cool down and direct sow them in your garden, something like a mustard green, for example. But your broccoli, your cabbage, and kale, they do best grown from transplant. We actually are best off starting those from seed indoors so they get larger, 4 to 6 weeks old, and then we can transplant them out into our garden when things cool down. Brassicas, as a general rule, do not like heat. They are very sensitive to it, and too much heat too quickly, especially rapid fluctuations in temperature, can cause them to bolt, flower, and go to seed. So for that reason, you need to time out your brassicas to get them out into the garden after things start consistently cooling down. But while they are frost tolerant, they generally don't like really long, hard, prolonged freezes. So for that reason, we also want to harvest them before we're starting to get ample hard frosts. Otherwise, you're going to have to cover them all the time. So for that reason, these longer standing brassicas that can take 60 to 90 days or more to mature, you really need to get them started when it's still nice and hot out, and start them indoors and get good sized transplants out into your garden at some point in September when things start cooling down for good. And in order to make that happen, most of us are going to have to start our transplants from seed at some point in August. This also goes for other brassicas like cauliflower and Brussels sprouts that can take a long time to form heads or terminal buds and need to stand for several months in order to hit maturity. I specifically isolated the broccoli, the cabbage, and kale because they are much more popular, but of course, if you like growing cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, you would want to start them at the same time indoors and do the transplant dance when things cool down as well. Brassicas are also extremely prone to insect pests, so we definitely don't want to direct sow them in the heat of the summer, otherwise things will eat them alive. We want to get the transplants outdoors after things cool down and all of those brassica pests go away. Crop number 9 that you can plant right now in August are peas, and that includes your shelling peas, your snap peas, and your snow peas. Peas are also a legume, and like most legumes, they are a lazy gardener's dream. Just like with string beans, your peas need little to no fertilizer. They're nitrogen fixers, so too much fertilizer actually does them bad. They like growing with just a little bit of 5-5-5 spread over the planting holes when you plant them. And just like string beans, they do best being direct sown, not grown from transplants. Success with peas all comes down to timing. That's because your peas are a frost-tolerant crop and they mature fairly quickly. However, peas don't like extreme heat. If it gets too hot when they're trying to mature, the pods don't taste very good. They will be tough and wood-like. But if it gets too cold and you start getting hard freezes, you are going to have to cover your peas, because if the pods freeze through, they will crack and splinter. Even a light frost can damage the pea pods if they are fully exposed, even though the plants themselves are frost tolerant. So, in order to have success growing peas in the fall, it really all comes down to timing, because you want your crop to mature before your last frost date. If it doesn't, you definitely want to get yourself some agricultural fabric. That way you can pull the fabric over the peas and protect them from that frost, which is really simple to do. So if you're running the calculations and you find out that you're really running up against that last frost date, not a big deal if you get yourself some agricultural fabric. I'll place some links down in the video description for some agricultural fabric. It is really inexpensive and it's great to have on hand for all-purpose gardening throughout the fall and winter. And crop number 10 that you can start from seed in August right now are your warm season lettuces, specifically your romaine types. Yes, it is true, there are warm season lettuces and cool season lettuces. Not all lettuces like cold weather. In fact, some are downright sensitive to frost, and many of your romaine lettuces are. Now, it is true, at least as far as I've ever found, that no lettuce likes truly hot weather. Your 90+ degree weather is going to wreak havoc on pretty much any type of lettuce, but there are a lot of lettuces out there that like it pretty warm. I have been growing this variety of romaine lettuce called Giant Caesar for many years, and it really loves the warm weather, especially temperatures in the 80s. And surprisingly, it does not do well at all with frost. Any more than a very light frost can brown it, and it really needs to be covered in that frosty weather. So for that reason, this is one of the first lettuces that I sow every single late summer to get a fall harvest, and it is one of the last lettuces that I actually sow in the spring, because I can push this one further into late spring than any of the other varieties that I've ever grown. So while there is still plenty of time left for the vast majority of us to grow our cool season lettuces deep into the winter, your warm season lettuces can go out a lot earlier. Now, whether you direct sow them or start them as transplants is kind of up to your own personal preference and your climate. Here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina, it's still too hot to direct sow them. While they would germinate, they'll probably turn yellow and tough and try to bolt on me, even underneath shade cloth, because it's still in the mid-90s here. It's really brutal. So for that reason, I actually like to start these from seed indoors in August. That way I can have nice transplants to transplant out into my garden in the middle of September when things are actually cooling off for good. And if it still winds up being a little bit hot for a week or two, well, then I'll just plant them underneath shade cloth like I have here, covering most of my garden, and that will bridge the gap for a few weeks and the transplants will do just fine. And as promised, here is a comprehensive list of all of the different seed varieties that I am starting in August right now for my vegetable garden. And that right there are 10 crops that you can start from seed in August right now. August is a wonderful time of year because it is the inflection point for seed starting season again. Things are cooling off and we're falling into second summer and we're moving into the fall gardening season. So this is actually a great time that we can start sowing seeds again for our late summer and fall gardens. If you've never grown a fall garden, please try some of these crops this year. I'm telling you right now, growing and gardening in the late summer, early fall, and into mid-fall, it's the best time of year to do it because, you see, in the spring, everything is kind of working against us. The days are getting longer, they're getting hotter, they're getting more humid, the sun is getting more intense, it's burning our skin, it's beating us up, and it's starting to stress out our plants, and we're getting more plant diseases, we're getting more insect pest pressure. It's just brutal. But this time of year, everything is working with us. The insect pest pressure is going away. The sun intensity is going down. The days are getting cooler. The thunderstorms are going away. It's less humid. It is just a wonderful time to spend time in the garden. So if you're the kind of person that often gives up on their garden in the middle of summer because it's just too hot and you can't take it anymore, well, fall gardening is for you. You will love growing a garden in September, October, and November, and even in December in many places with warmer climates. My climate is not all that warm, but November and December is one of my favorite times of the year to garden. So the garden that you plant right now, the seeds you sow right now, it is an investment, and if you invest, you can have one of the best, happiest falls of your life. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and please ring that notification bell so you're notified when I release more videos like these. Again, for any of the products that I mentioned in this video, like the various covers, the insect netting, the shade cloth, I'll place direct links to all of them down in the video description. For everything I use in real life in my garden in general, that is all linked in my Amazon storefront. So expand the video description, click on the Amazon storefront link, and you'll see everything I use in real life. While you're down there, please consider checking out my spread shop for custom merch if you want to support my channel. And for any of the seeds that I mentioned in this video, I'll place links to my favorite varieties down in the video description for your convenience. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video.
Dale, it's the 15th of the month, so you have to take your monthly heart guard. That way you don't get any kind of fart worms, because remember, heartworms are incredibly dangerous to dogs, and all they have to do to get a heartworm is to be bitten by one mosquito, and boy are the skeeters out. Ow, it was my finger! You're supposed to be more gentle than that, buddy. Well, anyway, monthly reminder, we used to work for years for a local dog shelter, and half the dogs that would come in were heartworm positive. And all you have to do to prevent that is to give them a cheap monthly heartworm supplement, because once dogs have heartworms, well, the worms, they eat little holes in the hearts of the dogs, so they have to be put in isolation and quarantine for months, and they're not allowed to play, they're not allowed to do any kind of strenuous exercise. It's basically torture for the dogs because they have to wait for the holes in the hearts to heal, and quite often the dogs would pass because they would have heart attacks from the damage to the heart. So it was truly a tragic situation. So all you have to do is give them a monthly heartworm preventative, and Dale just loves his. It must taste like bacon.